there are really two basic states of being. You're either in love or you're in fear. And fear, then creates a host of other things like anxiety, depression. It could create anger and apathy and all of these negative emotions, where love puts us in the present moment. It allows us to even be in heart and brain coherence so that we're in a brainwave state that is more creative. And the only place that we can create from is when we're in the present moment and when we're in the state of love, right? Welcome back, listeners. You know where you are. It's a loud voice for love, and today we are going to get loud with Melissa Camilleri. And I am so excited about this discussion because I really, I hate to say it's an interview because really they're discussions. And I met Melissa about maybe not even a year ago, and through this amazing group that her business partner Angela and Sherry Salata created called the Prosper Network. And I'm also will be interviewing Sherry at some point, but um, I was I was introduced to the Prosper Network through Sherry's newsletter. And what I love, 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 so because this is a loud voice for love, is how we get loud together in love, right? And love is one of those words that is so misunderstood. And what Melissa and Angela and Sherry are doing with the Prosper Network is, I believe, the absolute amplification of love. And it's based on principles that when I first saw it, I was like, this is my group. These are my people. Generosity, reciprocity, expansion.
Yeah.
So welcome, Melissa. I was going to introduce you with all of your bio stuff, but I think you should just take it because you know you better
Oh.
than the words that I have like printed out on a page.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Carol, because when we first connected, I felt instantly like our paths were meant to intersect at the moment that they did. And that, in all divine timing, it just feels like we're on this journey to bring women together at like exactly the right time. So I'm just thrilled to be here. So thank you. Okay, my background. So how far back do you want me to go? Because
Well,
I
I
think a
think
lot of it
sharing,
informs where
yeah,
we are.
well, everything informs who you become. But I
Yeah.
love that we have an overlapping passion in the heirloom meals, kind of food, family food memories and food,
Yes.
right? So,
That is so like under the surface. Okay, let's just
all
start
right,
with this. I was a
okay.
high school English teacher for many years, like 10 years, and I thought that was the best job in the entire universe. I loved working with the kids. I worked in a program that served um, uh, under-resourced first-gen students who had all the skills and the talent and the wisdom to know what they wanted to do further on in their path through university or whatever, but not the necessarily the support of the system to get them there. Because they're first generation college going students, and so it was a lot of like personal growth work that we did in for from ages 14 to 18 with the students. There was a lot of academic support, financial support, and through that process, it inspired my first business, which actually started as a fundraiser for scholarships for my students. And that business was called Compliment. And during that time, I had taken what I had understood as a teacher, and I had no business knowledge at all, like none. My parents are very hardworking. My dad is blue collar, and my mom was a homemaker, and so like I did not know how to run a business at all. I just had this like really big heart for service, and my heart broke daily to see my students not have the financial means to get ahead. Also during that time, I got my master's degree in creative writing, which is where the memoir with recipes and comes in, which is just like a random fact. that I don't even think Angela, my business partner, knew that I had such a deep, like I was so deeply drawn to memoirs with recipes until you and I started talking. And she's like, I didn't even know. So that's like kind of a segue. Anyway, I mean, or a divergence. Anyways, so I had this business complement. I do that for 10 years and I learned so much about how to market, how to sell, how to communicate, how to build relationships. And what I found is that the same things that I knew how to do as a teacher, which was really around relationship building and getting to know each individual and helping them get what they want, um, in life really translated to the business world. And here I was thinking, well, I'm an educator. Like, what the heck do I just so much imposter
Mhm.
syndrome being in business circles, going like, well, I'm a teacher, but I just happen to have a business. And what I learned along the way in that decade is that relationships really drive everything. And it's no different in education than it is in business. And there was like this really cool intersection of taking what I knew as a teacher and then applying it into the business world. And um, I ended up shutting down that business during a really successful season. Honestly, it didn't peter out. I just kind of pulled the plug because I became a mom and my priorities shifted drastically because I built that business when I was going through a divorce. So I had lots of time on my hands. I wasn't a mom yet. So it was like creation as the antithesis to grief in a lot of ways. And then, oh, there's this spamming call coming in. And then once I had my first baby, I was really like able to work on that business, still, in the pockets of time that I had, but 4 months postpartum, I got pregnant again. And so
Woo.
let me tell you that that really shifts your priorities, having a newborn and also being pregnant again. So my boys are 13 months apart, and that really forced me to look at how I was working and how I was serving and how I was showing up in the world and do a massive reassessment. So in 2019, like let's see, it was probably 4 or 5 months before the world shut down with the pandemic, I pulled the plug on that business. And I went through a deep period of grieving and trying to figure out, well, what's next for me? And if I'm not a teacher and I don't have this business complement that everybody thus far knows me for, how am I going to reinvent again, especially now with two small children? And what came out of that was reconnecting with who is now my business partner, Angela, and we built our organization called Stand for the And Stand for the And means you can be both successful at business and prioritize being a present parent, or you can both be a teacher, an educator, and a successful business partner. So it's this both and mentality that Angela and I really deeply hold true as like core life philosophy that we built this business on. And what we do is we help people take their intellectual property and create products from it. So different revenue streams from their processes, from their books, their blogs, their podcasts, and create educational programming around it for scalable revenue within their business. So it still is taking this education piece and marrying it with the business piece. And as Angela was coming out of another role as well, and we decided, okay, we need an opportunity to network with other people. Like now that we are in this pivot, who do we know that needs these services? Because I had a list, but they were all like people who bought from my gift brands. Like maybe there would be somebody in that pile of people, pile of email
Yeah.
addresses who might want what we're doing, but it wasn't like, so I just started having coffee chats with everybody that I knew, and we built up a client list, and that was really great. But we're like, this is not sustainable. So let's find a network. And we went looking, and we're like, okay, so we could like troll this Facebook group, this free Facebook group to try and find contacts, but that feels like
Yeah.
not our right place. Or we could spend $25,000 to get in a room with these mastermind people. And that didn't feel right either. And so we're like, there's got to be a network for people who are established in business. We already are doing our thing. We already have something, we're not building from scratch. Where's a place for people like us? And we couldn't find it. So we built it. And that's how the Prosper Network came to be about 18 months ago. And
Yeah.
that's how we met you.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
whole life story.
such an amazing journey. And I love that none of our journeys are straight lines. And
Right.
and when we operate from the place of, I really see it as love, right? And it starts with self-love, right? And even
Yeah.
in your grief, you understood that tending your garden, right? Like being in the creative space was an act of
Yeah.
love for yourself, right? Rather than,
Huge.
kind of wallowing in like whatever after a divorce. And
Yeah.
so, you know, see what happens when you tend your garden, with love, right? Like things
Yeah.
really grow. And I think that that is the message with this podcast because I think so many people don't understand that love is such a powerful vibration. It's such a powerful place to operate from, right? So like just
Yeah.
that, from this heart space, which, most of us, and I mean, I'm guilty as anybody else of shutting that down. Like, I mean, I worked
Yeah.
in, as you know, I worked in finance for the first 15, 16 years of my career. And it was a total mismatch, right? But it was
Right.
sort of it was what was everybody was doing at the time. And I literally said that I would get to the lobby of the building, I'd check my personality at the desk and
Yeah.
get on the elevator and then come out who they wanted me to be, right? As I
Yeah.
stepped onto the floor. And, after you do that for many years and with, a lot of bad behavior. I mean, like
Yeah.
I have no problems telling this audience that, as much as I live in love and I would love to say that the financial services industry is a place of open-heartedness, it is not.
No.
It is mean, dog eat dog. I mean, even my interviews, how did I even, I remember, I bet Bear Stearns doesn't even exist anymore, but I remember going in and the guy took my resume and threw it in the garbage.
So rude.
Like, and I should have gotten up. I mean, I was like 21 years old, right? But I really should have gotten up and said, you know, I don't want anybody who would behave that way. I don't want to be part of this, right?
Right.
But at that juncture, that was the zeitgeist, right? So like if I wanted to play, I had to play,
Yeah, by
in
those
that,
rules, right.
right. And but talk about having to like fortress your heart because, I
Yeah.
was highly sensitive. I was very oh, I mean my personality hasn't changed. I mean, one good thing is I still showed up, I smiled, I laughed and performed, but that didn't matter, right? Because it was that's the world that financial services was, and I sadly think probably is worse now than it was in the 80s and 90s. And
Oh,
so
that's a
so
a
anyhow,
whole
yeah,
different
yeah.
conversation.
But the heart part, right, is like
Yes.
that fortress, right? And so we, as we, chip away at that little fortress that is certainly for me that was built, it's really important to keep it open now. And there's so many forces in our environment that are asking us to shut down, right? Are
Oh,
asking us to
yes.
move into fear or to anger or just so this is the antidote. This is what you're doing with stand for the and. I love and, right? I think so many of us used but, right? But
Correct. Or,
or
but, and or. And it doesn't have to be that way. And is inclusive. And I used to say this a lot. And is a joiner.
yes.
It's a joiner. So like, I want to live my life with that mentality of being a joiner, being comfortable with the gray area, not fitting into any one box because it stifles the fullness of who we are. as humans, and our our society, our culture likes things really neat and tidy, which is very much either or, um, black, white, right, left, like very, very divided. And yeah, and is a bringing together of things, of two
Yeah.
things. And I
Yeah.
I want to stand there despite some serious discomfort and sometimes unlearning. I catch myself often having to coach myself through, or to challenge myself to be like, okay, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be both things. And we have to be okay with the unknowing piece of it, like that unknowing, the uncertainty in the gray. When you get certain about things, I think that's danger, that's treacherous waters. And we're seeing that right now, right? Like with how, everything going on. It's like if
Yeah.
we're very certain, then there's no opportunity to bring together.
Well, there's the limit. That's
Right.
playing against the unlimited possibilities in the universe, right? So it's just a
Exactly.
lack mentality.
Right.
And the and is an infinite mentality, right? It's an
Yeah.
abundant mentality. And that's the same energy that you bring to the creation of the Prosper Network. And I am a member, so just for the audience to know that I showed up at a marketing event that they had just and it was a speed networking, and I've always been a networker. That's how I've been successful in life, right? It's I've always trusted that it's the people I know, the people that I meet are really going to be the people who that I can navigate through life with, and never
Right.
really expecting something from them, but just knowing that um, there are synchronicities in how people show up in your life and how the Prosper Network show. I mean, I really was just, I was on Sherry's mailing list and it just showed up and I actually read it for a change, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and I showed up and it was like, wow, we're doing speed networking. I've gone to live speed networking events, like, pre-COVID and all that. And I've always felt that they were so great because you were able to have this quick exchange. Back then we had those things called business cards, right? Which I
I
still
know.
have, by the way. And
Totally.
and you came back with a stack, right? And then you would
Yes.
go in and you would write notes on them, and then I would send either handwritten notes because it wasn't so like fluid as it is now, or emails, or I would find them on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
um, and develop. I mean, I found sponsors for my PBS TV show from those types of networking events, right? Like
Yes.
you
You
showed
never know
up,
who's going to be in the
right?
room.
Yeah,
And the thing that like scrambles my brain all the time, but like in the best, most excited way possible, is to say, I don't know who's going to be in the room, but I also don't know who they know. And
right.
so it's really exponential and infinite when you allow yourself to be okay with the discomfort of meeting new people and feeling kind of awkward to start new conversations. But when everybody is coming into the room with the same intention and purpose of, I want to share what I know with you, and I hope that you share what you know with me, so we can all rise together, that really reciprocal as opposed to extractive or transactional vision of networking. um that to me is so exciting, because I've never made a PBS show. I've never gotten sponsorships to produce a piece of art. But Carol, you have. I had no idea. So producers, all these people. Like, who's to say that that might not be helpful information for me one day? And I just trust. I mean, I think this is the key, actually, and I'm learning this more and more, is that if you can go into a situation like that with deep trust that whatever you give will come back to you one way or another, maybe not from that exact person, but in some way, um, that law of return, that law of reciprocity, then you can give more freely, because you're not like, okay, so tight-fisted in sharing your resources. You can open your hands and really receive what is meant for you, and be okay with however it comes in, not exactly in the ways that you
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah. And when I first saw the fact that it was a networking group based on reciprocity, and I
Yeah.
think we've talked about this. One of my absolute favorite books is
Yes.
Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass, right?
Yes.
And also The Service Berry and The Gift Economy. Those are little pieces that she's written.
Yeah.
And they're all, I mean, the Native American, or at least her tribe was all based on reciprocity
Mm-hmm.
and generosity,
Mm-hmm.
and expansion and not extraction, right?
Right.
Right. Not with expectation, right? It's really
Right.
like that whole concept. And it's all energy. Really what it all comes down to
Totally.
is, and that energy is love,
Yes.
right? It's
Yes.
it's so loving. It's so important, you know, to show up with this, just it's that open-heartedness, because you could feel it. And I have to say that every single speed networking that I've attended, it's just, I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, there are people who have never been there before. Now that I feel like I'm like, sort of a
An elder
elder,
stateswoman.
right? Like, because it's such a
Yeah,
young networking group. And
no, I don't mean elder by age, just as
no,
like you're an experience, you
right.
bring wisdom and experience to the
Yeah.
group because you've been around.
Yeah. And then you just kind of, the new person is just like, okay, that we're now like pulling it out of them, because
Yes,
I mean,
let's bring you in,
yeah, yeah.
right? I
And because
love that.
we want to know, who are you? You showed up here. This resonated with you too.
Yeah.
And and we just need more of it, more and more. We need to attract more people, more women, because it's not just people, it's women. And
Yeah.
like, and so
For those
let's,
who identify.
yeah, and
Yeah.
let's be clear about the whole concept. It's like there's a lot of things around in the ethers about women versus men, and you know, we we obviously identify as women. We um, but we've also do things differently. We're different.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. And it's like, I
Yes.
really don't want to be, I tried to be in the old boys club, right? Like I
Hmm.
did that while going to the 21 club, acting all like, I just, I sucked at it. I mean, like
Yeah.
that was not my, having to act like aggressive, and like they could have their little clubs,
Yes.
like you do, and we respect that. Like
Yes.
I want, and if I want to do business with love, and I want to do business in a feminine, divine feminine way.
Correct. And all that to say is that like we have worked with, I mean, not specifically in the Prosper Network because it is a women's business group, but in Stanford the and throughout life with incredible men
Oh God,
who
yeah.
totally lead with
We're
love.
married to incredible men,
We
right? I
are,
mean, it's
yes, exactly. Who
like,
lead with love, who work in a very integrated way, who and are very comfortable with the way that they know how to navigate the world. And women, like our big like stake in the ground with the Prosper Network is not that women need to rise up together to
right.
overtake men
No.
or to get a foot in the door in a man's world. It's we are hardwired to be like to be in a collective. We are
Yep.
hardwired um, to collectively share resources. And if you look at like anthropologically speaking, um, there was a community of care around women and families and tending to one another. And that I think can be replicated in a modern business setting where, our vision is that this network becomes so big and so powerful, not to dominate or not to extract more, but so that we can support one another and lift one another up for
Yeah.
visibility. So if Carol, you are like, hey, I published another book, then we share that within the network and immediately you sell several hundred copies. Like that's the kind of vision we have because you're part of us and we look for reciprocal opportunities for one another
Yeah.
and we're watching out for one another and there's a spot at the table for people who want to do business in this same way because I have tried lots of marketing techniques. I've done tons of sales trainings and whatever, and it never works better than building real relationships with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
And
always spend my money with people who I know, I like, and I trust.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I don't think that I'm different than anybody else. I think that's how everybody operates.
Yeah. And
I
I
think.
think that having that long perspective, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
transactional. Like it's not, sometimes it could be immediate, right? It's not to say that
Yes.
there couldn't be a transaction from one of the speed networking groups instantaneously, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And there often are, honestly. Somebody
well,
is like, oh,
I've
right.
been the receiving end of a couple of them, right? So,
Amazing. Yeah.
right. But but the point was none of that came because I was selling or you were selling. It's
Right.
because we showed up authentically with, love in our hearts to
Yes.
really help the other person or to be in reciprocity with them, right? Like,
Yes.
and then, I mean, I'm going to be hosting a retreat here for one of the Prosper Network members, and she knew that I held my own retreats here, so she was sort of like, I looked up at your retreats. Your place looks amazing. Could I have my retreat at your place? I was like, sure. Like, I mean, it wasn't like, I wasn't like, hey, I'm looking for people to host retreats at my house, right? Like, it
Right.
was just, that's what happens when people show up, just authentically as themselves with no agenda, right? The agenda
Right.
is connection. The agenda is
Right.
building relationships and community
Yes.
and supporting. I mean, let's just let me ask the question that I always, it's like it feels so much better to give than to get, right? I mean, like, and that's what you said.
Yes.
I mean, I wrote it down. It's like big heart for service, right?
Yes. I mean, I get so much deep, purposeful joy in my like when I think about, okay, how am I spending my time? And is it in a purposeful way where I feel like it has meaning? I can point to like I connected that person with that person and they are flying like then it feels like okay, I'm contributing something. I'm not just in consumption mode. I am
Right.
contributing to the betterment. I'm weaving webs together and that feels like okay, I'm good then with me.
Yeah.
I'm good with my
Yeah.
spirit. And and that said, I also love receiving. Like I feel great when I get a sale. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie about that.
Yeah.
Like
Same. I
or
mean,
minimize it. And we're all there to expand. Like
right.
the when we came up with those three terms, like our rally cry, which is generosity, reciprocity, and expansion, it's like we're not going to shy away from the fact that all of us want to grow our business. We all want more visibility um, and more sales and more clients to live the lives of to live our lives on our terms, to be able to make the choices that we want to make. And we don't need to shy away from that there will be a transaction somewhere. And hopefully it's from this network or somebody that, like you could trace it back to the network. But it's like generosity and reciprocity when you can really live in that circle of giving and receiving, giving and receiving, giving and receiving, that leads to the expansion. Expansion is the
Yeah.
byproduct, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I've been
And the,
thinking a lot about this, about like
yeah.
how those three are related. It's like
Yeah.
giving and receiving is the cycle, byproduct is expansion and collective expansion. That's the
And,
other piece. It's
you
not just
know,
one person.
and expansion, it's like when I teach breath work, right? It's just like, when you go like that, like it's also like the power pose, right? Like
Yes.
it's like expansion is healthy, right?
Yes.
It's not a bad thing. And the
Right.
other thing that when you're speaking is it's like you're creating a new model, right? Because when
Trying.
you,
Yeah.
well, you are because, and everything needs to start, right? Start small, grow.
Yeah.
But the thing is that um, we things are broken. I mean,
Mhm.
like let's just, I'm not gonna, we're having a breakdown in the basic systemic way that our society has worked for
Correct.
hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And we're in it, right? And talk about the unknown in this the discomfort of the unknown
Yes.
and the breakdown in a lot of ways of trust, right? And so this group, what you're doing is creating a new way of trust, right? That
Mhm.
and like the words of like generosity and reciprocity are not spoken in many networking groups or in any businesses, right?
No.
None. Only on the Native American tribes do they speak that way.
Yeah.
And for that to be the those three words and then expansion, and expansion is like heart expansion, right?
Yes.
It's expansion of goodness, it's expansion of love.
All of that. Yes. Spiritual expansion, all of it.
Yeah.
When we expand, I've been thinking a lot about this too. We can only hold the space for our clients or in our work as far as we've expanded, right? It like
Yep.
if you think of if your expansion is the size of a little Tupperware container, that's all you can hold for everybody else. But the more we're able to expand ourselves, the more we're able to hold for others. And that to me helps keep my vision long term because this is just how I want to live. It's not
Yeah.
just how I want to grow my business, it's how I want to live. This is who I
Yeah.
want to be as a
The
person,
lifestyle.
the lifestyle of it. Exactly. Um, and and I should say that part of the Prosper Network, it's like we've only been talking about the business side, but I think the thing that is really remarkable about this network, um, thanks to Sherry, who Angela has been working behind the scenes in Sherry Salata, who is the former executive producer of the Oprah Show and the former president of the Oprah Winfrey Network. So talk about connected. Like she has had Deepak Chopra in on her on her platform, so very, very connected. And Angela's been her growth strategist behind the scenes when she retired from the Oprah world and started creating her own platform. And so she had been talking, we were all talking and we said we wanted to do this we wanted to build a network for people like us, who people wanted to do business like us. And she said, can I be a part of that? Like come in under my network and we're going to host that together. And we're like, great. So when somebody joins the Prosper Network, they get all of this business piece of it. They get the lunch and learns, they get the speed networking, they get to be connected to all of these incredible women. But then they also get this whole other side of the network, which is all around personal growth rather than professional growth. And I think to do business in the way we're talking about, or to be a part of the network in the way that we're talking about, it takes some unlearning, it takes personal growth, it takes examining pre-existing um, ideas or thoughts or ways of doing things and expanding holistically, not just in business. And so on the personal development side, it's called the support system. And all of those events and interactions and activities and the space in the online network is all open to the Prosper Network as well. So there's daily meditation, which I just think is incredible.
Mhm.
Daily meditation to expand your on an individual level. There's coaching over there. There's guest experts that come in. People with best-selling books. Like we're having somebody come in just this week around. I think he comes tomorrow. All around
Manifesting.
manifesting and
Yeah.
manifestation. Just really, really uh, awesome opportunities for that personal book clubs, writing areas. So it's like, how do you expand as an individual on the TSS side, the support system side, and then how do you expand professionally on the Prosper Network side? And so you can't really go wrong in either
No,
space, which
no.
I just think is
Yeah.
remarkable. And I don't see that anywhere else. Like this is exactly what we
Yeah.
wanted and what the vision was, and it's working. Like we have, um, like it's slower than I want it to go. Because you know, when you have a vision on something, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want it happening
Yeah.
now. So we have like around 200 people within the Prosper Network, which I think is great. And I want 1,000 this year, you know, like the
Yeah,
more
let's do
people
it. I mean,
who are in, the more we all grow together.
completely. And
Yeah.
it's exponential, right? It's
Correct.
exponential. And
Yes.
I really talking about exponential, going back to being loud voices for love.
Yeah.
Love is a high vibing frequency. The
Yes.
higher frequencies we can be in, the more exponentially our electromagnetic field has to go. So we
Yes.
impact the consciousness around us. So this
Yes.
Prosper Network with the support system, it all is such a beautiful, I love you use the word woven
Mm-hmm.
um, um, fabric, tapestry that is as a collective, I really see it as, a high vibing, you know, um, electromagnetic field that is part of the shift in the consciousness, going back
Yes.
to like what's going on in the world right now with everything breaking down. So
Yes.
you are creating a new system.
We, no,
We,
it's
yeah, it is the
absolutely a
we.
we.
Right,
It's
right.
totally a we thing. We
And the and, right.
the and, right? This is not something that Angela and Sherry and I put out into the world so that we could dominate over a
Right.
group
Yeah.
or
And
to be the head honchos of a group. This is a total
yeah,
we thing. And
it is a
yes, we are
we.
the founders. And yes,
Right.
the idea came from a, a, a personal need to
Yeah.
find a network. But it is, I mean, to be very frank, it is built on sweat equity right now. Like this
Yeah.
is, it's something that we have this deep vision for because we want it for ourselves as
Yeah.
well, but we want to bring everybody along with us. So
Yeah.
it's all of ours to build.
Yeah. It is. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love it and what it represents and being somebody that I think I had mentioned we were in a meeting together that and I'm going to do probably like a LinkedIn post and take a picture like way back when I was an assistant vice president at State Street Bank, which then became State Street Global Advisors. I was State Street Asset Management actually. I got interviewed by Cosmopolitan magazine of all things.
That's so
And
cool.
like, and it ended up being this little like thing that they put in, but it was basically like what would be my best business advice? And it was like your network, like build your
Yes.
network, right? And that
Yes.
was back, in my 20s. And it was my network that saved me, like in everything. Like I actually got fired because my boss sexually harassed me. And then I
Oh,
pursued you know, a wrongful termination suit pre Anita Hill. I didn't have there's nothing other than I was doing the right thing because I didn't want this guy to do it to somebody else. And
yes.
I didn't, there was, very small settlement, their strategy was break the plaintiff. So it was like, here, we'll give you a little something because they would break me because they had
Yeah.
deep pockets and I didn't. But it was never about the money. And
Right.
so as an aside, you know, 2 years, and this is why I have faith in what's going on in everything, is that it felt like I had lost, right?
Yeah.
2 years after he got walked out in handcuffs by the SEC.
I mean,
And so
it's
it was
awesome.
like what I did was I started the opening for the company to kind of look at this guy knowing
Yeah.
I think that he had done what he had done, right? And then it
Right.
turned out he was just a bad human.
Right.
And hopefully he's transformed. I haven't kept track because I don't carry that stuff along with me. But the whole, point is that it was my network because here I was tainted goods, right? I was
Right.
fired, right? Like,
Right.
and it was my network that like helped me find it was the job at State Street, right?
Yeah.
And it was because people knew who I was. They and I had really spent time and it was men in my network at the time, right? And
Yeah.
but they helped me, right?
Yeah.
They opened the door for me. They called me up and said, you know, you should look at State Street and you should call this person.
Yeah.
And that is what this is about, but it's on a whole different energetic level, right?
Yeah.
And we have the beauty now that didn't exist back then of the internet, right? Of this, look
Right.
at us, you're in California, I'm in Massachusetts, we're
I
having this
know.
beautiful conversation. Like I
I
want to come
know.
through the screen and hug you, but
Same.
like,
We're so lucky to live in this day and age, really, where we can be so very connected. And yet, I feel like never have we had greater opportunity to connect over the miles and not be, bound by geographical location for our network. But I think because of that, and I see this happening online, we assume we have relationships with people because we see what they're doing, what they're posting, what they're talking about. And so it has isolated people from really truly
yeah,
building real relationships. So
relationships.
even though I might think I know that, so and so influencer with X amount of followers, I don't know what's going on with it unless we are given an opportunity to build an actual relationship, which absolutely can happen online, like we have done. Like we've never been in the same room together physically, and yet I consider you somebody in my inner circle who I
Yeah,
would recommend to people, and I would want to work with, and you're always top of mind. So, um, in this day and age, I think it's ever more important to seek out opportunities to build real relationships with people that you might only ever meet online.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's possible here
yeah.
where it's not as simple when you're on social media to
At
connect
all.
with many
And
women at once.
it's also proving right now that social media is is very toxic,
Yeah,
right?
I
It's
had to move the apps off my home screen and bury them deep in a folder so I don't go on them. Like,
I took it off my phone.
yeah,
I mean, because it's just like I plus this is the other thing about love, right? If we are barraged constantly, which whatever network it is, it's you know, it's feeding us negativity right now,
it is.
right?
Mhm.
And that is going to hide limbically hijack us, and it's going to put us in
Correct.
fear, and we're not going
Right.
to be in our creative center.
Yes, you cannot create from a state of fear. You just duck and cover.
Exactly.
And women are the creative force of humanity. I mean, like that's how we are the creators and
We have
co-creators.
babies.
Right.
It's the
Right. It's
life
us.
force.
Right. And so that, I mean, it requires women especially to not be afraid, to not and to be in a state of trust and, like you're saying, of love, so that we can create something together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, there's so much to this. It feels like a ministry, honestly, to us, or like a deep mission
Hmm.
work, very purposeful. It's not just, ooh, we want to network because we need to grow our business. That is part of it,
Yeah.
but it's really about how do we bring women together. And this is a loving act of resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I will not be afraid. I will
Right.
continue to look out for the people around me who I know are also looking out for me too.
Yeah. It's a really, is this not the way to live though? I mean, is this not the
That's how I
example we
want
want to
to.
be in the world, right?
Yeah,
To to be generous and live in that reciprocal concept and expand in every way. You know, my Qigong master, Grandmaster Nan Lu, in the other day in one of his Q&As, or it could have been morning Qigong, I can't remember. But anyway, he said something that I wrote down and I probably want to write a post or a blog post about it, that good is infinite. Bad is finite.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that, it just gives me the tingles just saying it.
Yeah, it makes me want to cry.
Yeah. And that what I feel like this group is goodness, and goodness is infinite, infinite
Yes.
and unlimited.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I need to write that down
You
and post
can.
it because that is going to inform a lot of the of how I'm filtering my marketing efforts to get people to come to this event that we're going to have, because it's so true, and we think that like, oh my gosh, everything is ruined and then that's the end of everything, and
Right.
that isn't the truth. Good
Mm-mm.
is infinite. Ah, it reminds me, so one of the most profound spiritual directors. He has since passed, but his name is Brother Camillus Chavez, and he actually married Nick and I, my husband,
Oh.
and he's a healer in every sense of the word, and a deeply good and holy man. And I asked him one time, how do you have so much energy? Because at the time that I was having this conversation with him, he was like maybe 86, so already getting up there in
Mhm.
age. And I said, how do you have so much energy to keep on pouring into people? Do you ever find that your tank is empty? He said, well, you have it all wrong. It's not coming from me. My source is infinite. And he
Mm,
said, if I just
mm,
feel myself being filled, then I can just be a conduit for it. I'm just the mouthpiece for it. And that changed how I thought about
mm,
literally everything.
everything.
So that it's the same idea of good being infinite, goodness, love.
Love.
We're just channeling it.
Yeah.
We aren't the
Yeah.
source of it.
Mm-mm.
It's not depleting us. There's not a
Mm-mm.
tank that can be emptied.
Empty.
It's just we're channeling
Yes.
and letting it flow through us. And that I think that if we can
And
all
that's
remember
it.
that, that's the secret right there. I forget it all the time though. Like, trying to do school drop off, I'm like, get in the car, let's go. We're gonna be like, So like, yes, we live in the world, and also just a gentle reminder to come back to that love is infinite, goodness is infinite, and we
Yeah,
can just channel it out. And it's not anything that we have to be afraid is going to run out on our
exactly.
watch. It's just
Right.
not going to.
No, no.
Does that
And
let you approach all your interactions with so much more generosity? Because you're like, you're not taking anything from me.
exactly.
I'm just channeling it. Free to give.
And there is the word expansion, and that's how it all fits in because
Yes,
by the way, the universe is expanding.
totally.
It's expanding. So why we have to expand with it?
Right. Ah, I just adore you.
I love
Thank
you too.
you for inviting me here so we could just have this chat. Like, this is just opening up my whole day.
Great. Great. And it's filled me and my heart and let's face it, this podcast is my answer, right? Like
Yeah.
to what the call was right now, which was, you know, how can I bring people on my show that are doing love, that are, and love is an act of resistance, right? Like in the
Yes.
best sense of the word, right?
Yes.
And I saw something briefly, it said resistance, resistor, right? Because sister, right?
Oh, my sister. Yeah, my sister. I love that.
I thought that was clever. And but you know, whether I like I don't really know that I like the word resistance, right? Because it feels like it has a charge, right? Like
Yes,
um
I
but
agree.
um I it's an antidote. It's an antidote to what I think a lot of people are feeling right now. And if any woman who's listening to this podcast is looking for a place for the antidote, for sisterhood, for support, reciprocity, generosity, and expansion.
And expansion. Yes.
Check out the Prosper Network. It's just an amazing place with a lot of amazing humans and an opportunity to shift the consciousness of of how things are done.
Yes. Will you put your link in the show notes for people?
Oh yes, when
Yeah.
when I put it together, I'll put the link and everything, and
All
also
those. Yeah.
links to you and all of that. So
Thank
yeah, so
you.
my assistant will, my amazing virtual assistant. Gosh, I couldn't do my business without her. Like,
I'd love a recommendation.
yeah, I will definitely. It's I didn't know that. I knew I needed help, but then, I worked with an agency to find one, and then it turns out that she was leaving, and because she lives in the Philippines, and
Mhm.
one of the things that sort of bothered me is that these lovely, talented people were working for us in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And so she was leaving to just have a normal, and I said, well, I don't care when you work. Like if you want to stay working with me, and that's what happened. It was sort of like, so she just continued with me, and she works, I don't care. Like she gets it, she gets stuff done.
Yeah.
And and so it works really well, but I can definitely tap into her and ask her because I'm sure she has friends.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be wonderful.
But it's also that it was my act of love for her, right? It's just like
Right.
she's so lovely and smart and talented, and she should sleep at night.
Correct.
Like,
It's just the humanity of work, of being,
like,
of employing somebody, like just recognizing their humanity. It's the bar is so low
low.
culturally that if you're just a good human wanting to be good to other humans, you will succeed. That's how I feel. The bar is so low. Trust is so in the toilet right now. When you just show up and you're a trustworthy person and you are a good person and care about others, I really think it's like a it's almost like a tidal wave. I like to think of water, like we're expanding past instead of a resistance. It's like a tidal wave
Yeah.
of love
Yeah.
that's going to,
Exactly. And we're
yeah,
creating a new path forward, and I just absolutely love it, and I love you, and thank you
I
so
love you
much
too.
for coming on and being a loud voice for love. And to my guests, thank you for joining once again, and we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks so much.
Raise a loud voice for love. Sky above, stars will guide. Together rise, we can move. Feel the power side by side.